Does your child speak excessively? Do they find it very hard to wait on their turn? Do they interrupt conversations? How about a task? Do they find it very hard to concentrate on a task? Well, then your child might be showing signs and symptoms of ADHD. Hi guys, it's your girl Tash. Welcome back to my channel. How's everybody doing? Do hope that everybody's doing pretty well. Here on my channel, I talk a lot about self-development, self-upliftment, and I hope to inspire positive change in women through education, entertainment, and motivation. I upload videos every Sunday, so make sure you come on by and check it out. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. So let's get into the video. Today I'll be talking about ADHD, which is known as Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. If this is something that you'd be interested in, stick around. Hi guys! So like I said before, today I'm going to be talking about ADHD. And the big question today is, how can you recognize if your child has ADHD, and how common is ADHD in Trinidad and Tobago? Do you know someone who has been diagnosed with ADHD? If you do, please write in the comment section below what are some of the signs that we can look out for in people who have ADHD. I just need to give you a quick disclaimer. I'm not a medical doctor or healthcare professional in any way. I am just someone who likes researching different educational material, and I would like to share it with you. So recently, one of my relatives was diagnosed with ADHD, and from what I've observed, ADHD is quite common, and not just in children but in adults as well. So what is ADHD? Well, according to the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, they said it's the most common neurodevelopment problems in childhood. ADHD is usually first diagnosed in childhood and often lasts into adulthood. A child with ADHD have trouble paying attention. They have trouble controlling impulsive behavior, so they may act without even thinking about what the results may be, and they may be overly active. Sometimes you may hear someone use the term ADD in order to describe the symptoms that I have just outlined for you. Well, what's the difference, you ask, between ADD and ADHD? Well, it turns out that saying ADD is not always incorrect. It is actually correct sometimes, but not always. You see, ADD is a type of ADHD without the hyperactivity, without the constant movement or fidgeting. But it's a foggy kind of a distinction. Well, the confusion came back in 1994 when doctors decided that all types of ADD, Attention Deficit Disorder, would be called ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Now it's classed into three different categories: ADHD inattentive, ADHD hyperactive or impulsive, and ADHD combined. So, did you know that the estimated number of children with ADHD in the United States is well over 6 million? Yes, it is 6.1 million. That's 9.4% of the population. And this number includes 388,000 children aged 2 to 5, 2.4 million children aged 6 to 11, and 3.3 million children aged 12 to 17. Well, according to that same survey, boys are apparently more inclined to having ADHD than girls. In fact, it is a 12.9% compared to a 5.6%. That's quite a lot, wouldn't you say? This information was taken from a national 2016 parent survey in the United States. According to that same survey, they also said that many children with ADHD also have other disorders. 6 in 10 children with ADHD had at least one other mental, emotional, or behavioral disorder. About 5 in 10 children with ADHD had behavioral or conduct problems, And about 3 in 10 children with ADHD had anxiety. Isn't that something, guys? So this is a very serious topic. Here's a quick tip for you. Did you know that ADHD treatment can include behavior therapy as well as medication? Well, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, they say that children above 6 years old should be treated with behavior therapy as well as medication, both of them at the same time. And children who are under the age of 6 should be treated with behavior therapy as a first line of treatment. So, all of the information that I've given you so far is based on statistics from the United States. So what about Trinidad and Tobago? Well, according to the ADHD Foundation of Trinidad and Tobago, not much research has been done in Trinidad and Tobago on ADHD. As such, they speculate that at least 1 in 7 of the school-age population has ADHD. Mary Fullerton, the Chief Executive Officer of the ADHD Foundation of Trinidad and Tobago, in a recent interview with the Guardian newspaper, expressed that distance learning due to the pandemic has been a unique situation for all students throughout Trinidad and Tobago and the rest of the world. But for children who suffer from ADHD, it has really presented such a challenge in their learning. So much so that some of them are falling behind in their schoolwork. Now let's just give you a great example of this. You're at home, you're working from home, your husband is working from home, then you have 2 other children who are also doing schooling at the same time. So you have their devices going off, your device is going off, the birds are singing outside, the cat is passing by, the dog is barking outside, and here you have a child who has trouble being attentive. Do you get the picture? Can be quite difficult. Mrs. Fullerton, in her interview, also wanted us to be reminded that ADHD is a spectrum, and as such, not everyone will be the same. So, somebody who is affected by ADHD may be affected in one way, while someone else may be affected in a totally different way. So, all in all, each person is different and very unique. She also wanted to remind parents that patience is the key in order to dealing with children with ADHD. So please bear this in mind. So in conclusion, more research needs to be done in Trinidad and Tobago in order for us to have statistics on ADHD and other mental health disorders in children. So let's get back to the symptoms and signs of ADHD. First, we'll start with inattentiveness. The main signs of inattentiveness are a short attention span or being easily distracted, unable to stick to tasks that are tedious or time-consuming, constantly changing activity or task, having difficulties organizing tasks, appearing forgetful or losing things. Okay, let's talk about the signs and symptoms of hyperactivity and impulsiveness. You know how you have some kids who just cannot sit still for 1 second? They just cannot stop fidgeting or moving around? Well, that's one of the signs of hyperactivity and impulsiveness. Constantly fidgeting, being unable to concentrate on a task, being unable to wait their turn. You know, sometimes you want them to wait so that someone else can speak. Not gonna happen. They interrupt the conversation and they just butt in. They just cannot wait their turn. These are some of the signs and symptoms of hyperactivity and impulsiveness in ADHD. Acting without thinking, interrupting conversations. They have little to no sense of danger. These are some of the signs and symptoms of hyperactivity and impulsiveness in ADHD. So if your child is experiencing these kinds of signs and symptoms, you may want to investigate a little bit further to see if they actually are showing signs and symptoms of ADHD. Okay, parents, let's take into account that it is normal for children to sometimes have these fidgety behaviors and not be able to concentrate on what's happening. But I want you to know that with ADHD, it does not go away. They don't grow out of it. It's not something that can be cured. Actually, what happens is Because of behavior therapy and medication, you would find that people have come to manage their signs and symptoms of ADHD in adulthood, but it's not something that just disappears. Now, there are some common misconceptions that ADHD comes about from eating too much sugar, watching too much television, based on the type of parenting or the social environment that a child may be in, but that is absolutely incorrect. There is absolutely no research that proves that this is the cause of ADHD. In fact, they don't even know what causes ADHD. Scientists are still working on finding out what could be the reason. But current research shows that genetics does play an important role in ADHD. Now guys, deciding if a child has ADHD or not is a process with several steps. And one of those steps is getting a checklist from your doctor that will give you a rating for ADHD symptoms, and taking a history of the child from the parent, the teacher, and sometimes even the child themselves. Okay, so I've got one of those checklists here, and I'm just gonna read off some of the things for you. Now, this checklist, this particular one, is a parent rating scale, and these are some of the questions that they ask. Does not pay attention to details or make careless mistakes, such as in homework. Has difficulty organizing tasks and activities. Leaves seat when remaining seated is expected. Has difficulty playing or engaging in leisure activities quietly. Has difficulty waiting his or her turn. Argues with adults. Actively defies or refuses to comply with adults' requests or rules. You may find that some children even adopt a habit of telling lies. Blames others for his or her mistakes or behaviors. Here's a common one. Feels lonely, unwanted, or unloved. Complains that no one loves him or her. These are serious issues, guys, and something that we really need to take into consideration here in Trinidad and Tobago. There is not enough education out here to let people know that mental health is real. Now, one of these checklists will also be sent to the child's teacher for an evaluation from the teacher as well, to know how they interact in school, if they have friends, if they play with other children, how well they do with their schoolwork. Now, with my relative, what was happening with schoolwork was a bit of a tedious task. Sometimes she'd come home with a book only with the date on it, no schoolwork. So obviously not being able to focus on what is being said in class and the activity that's being done in class. So like I said before, the treatments for ADHD is usually behavior therapy as well as medication. So children above the age of 6 can usually do behavior therapy along with medication, and children under the age of 6, they usually just stick to behavior therapy and those children as the first line of treatment. For those of you here in TNT, if you find that your child is showing signs and symptoms of ADHD and you would like to get some help, or you'd like to get more information on the matter, I encourage you to contact the ADHD Foundation of Trinidad and Tobago. You can find them on Facebook or on their website at adhdtt.com, or you can also call them at 681-3483. And join me again next week Sunday as I upload more videos for you. And coming up next week Sunday, I'm going to be giving you another banana bread, as it's been a highly requested video to make a banana bread without eggs. So a vegan version of the banana bread. So that's what I'll be giving you next Sunday. Make sure you come on by and check that video out. In the meantime, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and of course that notification bell so you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. It's your girl Tash saying ciao for now.